Hey, and welcome back to Soul Podcasting, the space where we don't just talk about podcasting as content, but we treat it like the soul of your brand. I'm your host, Demetria, a podcast coach, strategist, and founder of the Soul Podcasting Collective, where we help entrepreneurs and visionaries launch, grow, and repurpose podcasts that sound like their purpose and not just their profession. So today's episode is going to be a quick but powerful encouragement for anyone who's been wrestling with this question of how do I actually find my podcasting voice? And before we dive in, I want to pause for a moment and share something really special. This summer, I had the honor of serving as a judge for the Women Who Podcast Awards, led by the incredible Kathy Barron. And at the end of it, I received a medal for participating, and honestly, it meant so much to me. Not just the medal, but being part of a global community of women raising their voices and making impact through podcasting. So I'm really grateful I got to contribute, and it reminded me again of how much I love this medium and how important your voice is in this space. If you haven't checked out Kathy already and what she's doing over at Women Who Podcast, check her out, womenwhopodcastmag.com, and see what she's up to and how you can find out more about podcasting, read her magazine, get involved in community, and just really enjoy the art of podcasting and get engaged. But before we get into anything more, I would love to invite you to go ahead and grab your favorite drink or beverage. We're really going to settle in today and talk about finding your podcast voice. It's something that I've been working through over the last 20 years of podcasting, and I'm still, even today, finding my voice. There's so many different layers to finding your voice, and we're going to figure out what that means and how you can find out what suits you best in podcasting. So settle in and let's chat podcasting. First off, what does finding your podcasting voice really mean? Well, finding your podcasting voice isn't just about your literal sound. It's not about having a deep, smooth voice or the perfect radio tone. Your podcasting voice is your presence. It's the way your personality, your energy, and your perspective shine through the microphone. So when I first started podcasting in 2005, I thought I had to sound like all the hosts that I heard on the radio. So at some point, I began editing out all the ums and the uhs. Of course, in the beginning, I didn't because I didn't know how to edit very well and I didn't have the time. So initially, everything that I put out there was pretty authentic and raw and unedited. But with time, I began to feel the need and the pressure to perfect everything that I did. And so basically, I squeezed myself into a version of me that just didn't feel natural. And you know what? That's also really exhausting. Over time, I realized that my real voice came out when I stopped trying to impress and just started to connect. When I told stories, when I laughed at my own mistakes, when I let listeners hear the real Demetria. And that's when I realized that your podcasting voice is about authenticity and not perfection. So your voice matters so much more than you think. The thing is, your niche might just be saturated. We all know that podcasting is booming at this point, and so many people are starting a new show every single week. Other people may very well be covering similar topics as you, but the reason that listeners choose your show and keep coming back is your voice. And I don't just mean the resonance of your voice, the timbre of how you sound, and the ebbs and flows of your natural cadence. I mean your emotions, your goal, your mission, your purpose for why you're creating the show, and the character that your show takes on as you're podcasting. So think about your favorite podcast shows. Sure, the content is valuable, right? That's why you listen. But usually it's the host who makes you hit follow or subscribe. It's their sense of humor. It's their perspective, their warmth, their style. It's the way they communicate and how that comes off through their soul to yours through the microphone. And your voice is the brand of your podcast. It's the one thing that nobody else can duplicate. So here are some practical ways that I want to help you find your podcasting voice. How do you actually discover that authentic voice? Here's a few things you can do. The first is that you can record more than you release. You can give yourself permission to record just some practiced episodes that no one's ever going to hear. Try different tones, different levels of energy, even different ways of structuring your content. Some of your best discoveries are going to happen off air. So when I say off air, meaning you're not planning to publish them or maybe you will. But if you've got a whole bunch of episodes recorded or things that you want to release and you're not really sure, just practice. And you don't have to have that pressure that someone will hear it if you never publish it. So maybe you do a few practice episodes until you're confident and see how much you need, how much you don't need. But during this time, you're practicing your true authentic voice. Another thing you can do is just to warm up your voice. So before you hit record, you can read out loud for a couple of minutes, maybe 5 minutes or so. Do a few vocal warm-ups. I'm trying to do more of that now as I'm singing more often as well. So it's part of my regime to warm up my voice. This not only helps you sound better, but it gets you relaxed, gets your vocal cords relaxed, and you're more comfortable in your own tone. Notice where you feel most alive. So do you feel most natural when you're telling stories, when you're coaching, teaching, when you're riffing freely, almost like journaling out loud? Some people really love that kind of a podcast. So pay attention to where you feel at ease, and that's usually where your true voice lives. So you have to kind of know yourself and know not just your mission and your purpose for your podcast, but how you wish to communicate that purpose to your audience. There's lots of different styles and characteristics that you can bring to that podcast. And so think about how you want to communicate with your audience. Decide on your tone persona. Just ask yourself, do I want to sound like a trusted coach or a best friend, a storyteller, or a guide? Defining that persona helps give your voice the structure and the consistency that you need throughout your show. So I've chosen the persona of trusted coach. I've also chosen teacher on some of my other shows. So it depends on how you want to present yourself, and that is the tone that the majority of your episodes will take on. Speak to one person and not the entire crowd. So one of the easiest ways to make your voice feel warmer and more authentic is to picture a single listener while you record. Talk like you're having coffee with them or just chatting with them one-on-one like a friend, and not necessarily delivering a speech to an entire stadium full of people. This is going to help you really to make that more meaningful connection with your audience. And then don't over edit. Leave in some of the laughs, a pause here or there, a stumble. It's okay. It makes you more human, and humans are what we connect with as people. So it's okay to have a few stumbles here and there. Just make it believable, right? Doesn't need to feel stuffy, stiff, or too edited. And then also you want to borrow and then evolve. It's okay to borrow a little bit from other people. We're not copying. We're not advocating for doing your show exactly the way someone else is, or just kind of copying, cut and paste exactly what they're doing. But it's okay to draw inspiration from podcasters that you admire. Early on, you might find yourself mimicking their styles in the beginning, but over time, you want to blend those influences into something that's uniquely your own. And the best news is that you don't need to have your podcasting voice fully figured out before you launch. So if you're still thinking of launching, haven't done that yet, just remember, you don't have to have it all figured out before you press go. Your voice is going to evolve as you keep going. And for those of you who have been in the game for a long time and understand what it means to be a podcaster, just remember that even your voice will continue to evolve as you do. When I go back and listen to my first episodes from 2005, yes, I still have some of those in my Google Cloud, and they are not published, and for good reason. I do cringe a little. That's okay. It just means that I've grown. My cadence, my tone, my confidence have all shifted with time. Even my accent, you guys, that has completely changed over the years. Coming from the deep south to the West Coast, it has been a minute, and that has changed. A lot has changed about my mindset. I've grown as a person, evolved. I'm 20 years older now. So the thought processes that I even had back then are not the same today. So yes, they do feel cringy when I listen to them, but I'm so glad that I took those steps and that I put myself out there and figured it out until now. Today, I'm really happy to be a podcaster that does this around life and around my schedule and around my family and around whatever's happening in my world. This is a go-to thing that I can come to the microphone and help you guys out, help the homeschool community, help the women entrepreneur creative community. I love having these different podcasts, which are just different ways that I can encourage, motivate, and support. And it's exactly what I feel like my calling is, right? And so that's why I'm so energized to do this every single week. It's not because I'm receiving a large paycheck from some entity or that I have all of these affiliate programs or that I'm making a ton of money, working with sponsors and getting magnificent deals. That's not happening right now. I have had deals in the past. I currently at this moment don't have any deals going. And so that's of course, not what motivates me to podcast. For me, podcasting is so much more than the income that you could receive from doing it. But there are going to be some things that we'll talk about on this show about how to monetize your show in a sustainable way, not to get your hopes up to the point where you're demanding a certain amount of money every month or else you quit podcasting. We need less of that, right? Because we don't want people jumping into the podcast movement thinking that they're going to get rich overnight. What we want is people who desire to share their voice, their take on life, and to do so in a way that is contributing to their community, that brings a level of support and encouragement for their particular niche or community, making a difference, making a positive difference, spreading good news, spreading love, spreading encouragement, joy, peace, all the things that our world needs today, because we are in such need of anything that is opposite of negative, anything that can help us to feel encouraged and motivated to keep going, to have some hope, right? No matter what your topic is in your podcast, if you're bringing hope, if you're bringing solutions, that is what I think podcasting is all about, right? And there's going to be people that will hear you that would never have been able to hear your message of hope had they not subscribed to your podcast. So you might not think that anybody cares, but when you post your episodes and you see that one person listened, and then the next week 5 people listen, and then 50, and then 100, and before you know it, thousands are listening to your episodes on a monthly basis. That's going to help encourage you to keep going down the road with or without that solid income. So yes, we want to budget for podcasting because it's not free, and you do have to have your hosting, and you do have to have, all the things that you need, your equipment to get started. But once you do, and you found your voice through more and more practice, again, podcasting is like using a muscle. The more you use that podcasting voice, the stronger it becomes, and you give yourself permission to grow into it. So the more you do that, the more hope you give to your community. What more can you ask for? That is you spreading positivity in the world. And that is the reward in and of itself, in my opinion. That at least is my reward when I podcast. And so bringing podcasting into your business takes on a whole different flavor, and we'll talk more about that later. But I just like to encourage you from the angle of being a life giver. We can talk about the money. We can talk about the business side of it. We can talk about marketing. I have a few episodes here where I have discussed keywords and marketing your show and that kind of thing. But it's not just about the marketing aspect. It really is about spreading good news to people who really need that information from you. If you're struggling with all of this right now, just this whole idea of how do I make this podcast work? How do I really make a difference in my community? Here's what I want you to know. You already have a podcasting voice, and it may not feel polished just yet. It may not feel like it matches the podcasters that you admire, but that's actually the point. Your voice isn't supposed to sound like their voice. It's supposed to sound like you. So I want you to lean into practice. Pay attention to when you feel most alive and let your personality shine through. That is the voice that your listeners are waiting for. And if you're not sure whether your podcasting voice is really shining through, that's exactly what my podcast audit is for. So I'll listen to your show, give you an honest, supportive assessment of your delivery and your presence, and then I can share ways you can step more fully into your authentic voice. You can grab your audit at soulpodcasting.com/podcast-audit. Link is in the show notes, because your podcasting voice truly matters. And you know what? The world needs to hear what you have to say. Until next time, my friends, happy podcasting.